Hi, and we're going to cover Chapter 22, Statistics. It's the last chapter in Unit 1, and it is kind of good review of some terms you've heard, as well as a good intro into the world of statistics. We won't go too much farther, but it's just kind of important to know the vocabulary that comes with it. So some of the terms that you saw in Chapter 22 is your mean, which means average. So what it is, it's sum of your values divided by the number of the values. And how we're going to kind of help explain this is looking at 5 digits right here. I just wrote down 4, 7, 9, 10, 10. So to figure out the mean for that, I have 11 plus 9 is 20, 20 plus 10 plus 10, so it's 40. Divided by 5 is equal to 8. Now my median is actually the middle of that, and so I'm going to count in. So I'm going to take off my highest, my next highest, which leaves me with 9. Now that works because I have an odd amount of values or digits, but what happens if we have even? Well, let's say we took away that 10 and we only have 4 digits to work with. Well, I'd work in. So what are my middle 2 numbers? Well, 7 and 9. Well, let's figure out the mean of those 2 middle numbers. So 7 plus 9 is 16, divided by 2 is 8. So if I had only 4 numbers, the median would be 8. Since I have 5, I have odd, the median is 9. So mode is actually just the most. What's the number that occurs the most in a data set? When you look, 10 occurs the most, and so it's 10. Also in statistics, as well as you'll see it, or you might have to do it for your work or in Excel, but working with how are you going to display those numbers in an easy way to understand what's really going on. And they, in the book, describe the frequency distribution as well as other graphs. So I just put up the line graph, the bar graph, and a pie chart, as well as a frequency distribution chart to help you understand. Line charts basically show over time, so you're looking at your revenues increasing hopefully over time. Your bar chart is actually maybe specific units that you sold and the amount that they sold. Pie charts, remember it's out of 360 because of the circle is 360 degrees, and then your frequency chart just helps you see who or the numbers in a different format. Now, also with the statistics, you have your index numbers, and this is a relative change in a variable compared to a previous year. So, for example, the price of gas in 2011 would be different than the price of gas in 2001. And that's when you hear the word the CPI, the Consumer's Price Index. That's what it's talking about, is the change in price. And we can figure that out by the current price divided by the base year's price times 100. And so we'll actually do one of the homework problems for you after this. Also in the chapter it talked about just the dispersion of your data. And if you take a range, one of the terms that they talked about is that if you look at a subset of data or data and you're going to take your highest minus your lowest, and where you might see it is in temperature. So for today the high was 84 and the low was 64. Your range in temperature today would be 84 minus 64, which is 20-degree range. Another thing is the standard deviation, which is the distance from the mean, and it comes into play quite a bit with statistics. It's kind of the meat and the backbone and that normal distribution. But we just want you to become a little bit aware or familiar of it. So I want to do that of these 5 digits, 4, 4, 5, 8, and 9. So what is the standard deviation of this? Well, first, how do you get it? I'm going to look at my 5 steps. I'm going to find the mean. I'm going to subtract my mean from each of the numbers. I'm going to square that difference or that answer. And then I'm going to take that summation of the squared numbers and divide it by how many values there are, minus 1. I want to take the square root of that. So let's add that up. We have 30 divided by 5 is 6. Now I'm going to minus 6 from each of these numbers. So 4 minus 6 is minus 2, a negative 2, negative 2, negative 1, positive 2, positive 3. So it should sum to 0. But now so we did step 1, now let's do step 2, which is subtraction. We did that, let's square these now, okay? So 2 squared, negative 2 squared is 4, negative 2 squared is 4, 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, 3 squared is 9. And when I say squared, that just means a number times itself. So 3 times 3 is 9. So then I add that together and I get 22. I'm going to now go on to my next one. So I summed those, minus in minus 1. So I've got 22 divided by, well, 5 minus 1 is 4. And I can reduce down. So that's 11 twos, or also known as 5 1/2, or 5 1/2, or 5.5. Now I'm going to take the square root of that. And so when I square root that, you can use the calculator, computer to figure out that, and it says that it's 2.3. So that's how you get standard deviation. The last concept that they talked about in this chapter was normal distribution. And what it's saying is, on average or normally, when you have your mean, it looks like a bell curve. Okay, and they're saying the responses of a data set that you will get will be within a certain percentage amount away from your mean. So they said 1 standard deviation. So for this last problem that we just figured out, standard deviation of 2.3 for these numbers. So what normal distribution says that of those 5 numbers, 68% of those 5 numbers will be within 2.3 of the mean. So then, and if you want to actually go a little bit beyond that, it says that 2 standard deviations away, you actually capture 95% of the numbers in a subset. So since we only had 5 numbers, it's a little bit harder to look at, but if you have a large data group of 20-some numbers, and it's saying that within, you figure out the standard deviation of those, for that 20 number value set, 95% of those numbers will be within 2 standard deviations on either side. So very, very key to other classes in statistics, and depending on what kind of business you want to go into, there's a lot more complex equations and mathematical formulations that you can actually do with that. But for this class, we'll stay away from that for right now. Just wanted to make you aware of it, and I figured let's go through some homework that's assigned to you and will be due on Thursday. So let's cover, let me grab the book, let's cover chapter 22, homework number 11. So it says the given cost of a truck in 2012 was $30,000. The cost of a truck in 2008 is $21,000. Calculate the price relative. So remember we said current price divided by base year price. So our current price is $30,000 divided by our base year price of $21,000 times 100 equals what? Well, I can cancel these down, reduce this down. So I've got 10 sevenths. Well, 10 sevenths is the same thing as 1 3/7 times 100. Well, I can actually get this to a decimal. So and I did the math, and it's actually 1.4285 times 100. So you get 142.85. So that's what your price relative is. So let's look at 15. 15 says, how many degrees in a pie chart would each be given the following? So of those who wore a digital watch, they said there's 42%. So my 42%. 51% said they wear a traditional watch, and 7% said they don't wear any watch at all. Since we have to get this to decimals, and then we have to multiply it by the degrees in a pie, in a circle. So we have 0.42 times 360, we have 0.52 times 360, we have 0.7 times, or 0.7 times 360. And then it's simple calculation, so you get 151.2, 183.6, 25.2. So that is chapter 22. I hope We haven't gone too fast, and hopefully, if you have any questions, please say, email me. Feel free to contact me. Otherwise, we'll put up a study session for next Thursday. So if you have any questions before the exam, which will be it'll be due that following Sunday. So thanks. Enjoy the weekend. Take care.